Okay, so we're going to be looking at the standard form of a quadratic equation, and we're going to use the standard form here to find the vertex. So this is just a regular quadratic equation. It's going to give me, if I were to graph this, it would give me that parabola shape that we've been dealing with. Right? And every parabola, whatever that shape is, it's going to have a vertex. It's going to have a highest or lowest point. Now we're going to find the vertex of this parabola using standard form. And if it's in standard form, remember it's that ax squared plus bx plus c. We've got these three terms here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a specific formula to start finding this vertex. And that formula is negative b over 2a. So whatever the b term is, in this case my b term is 10. All right, the formula says to take the b term and make it negative, or change the sign of it. So I've got negative 10 over 2a. Well, 2 times my a term. Well, the a term here, it was just a 1. So when I'm trying to find the x value of the vertex, I'm going to use negative b over 2a. That becomes negative 10 over 2 times 1, which is just negative 10 over 2. That gives me negative 5. That is the first step in finding the vertex, because when I find a vertex is an x and a y. There's a point on this graph that is going to be the lowest or the highest point of my parabola. I know the x value of the parabola of its vertex is negative 5. Now to find the y value, to find this other value, I'm just going to plug this number in. So I'm going to take this negative 5 right here, and I'm going to plug it in for x in my original equation, because you'll notice the equation says y equals whatever all this over here is going to eventually give me. Well, I figured out that x equals negative 5, so I would plug that into this original equation. So instead of x squared, it becomes negative 5 squared. And instead of plus 10x, it becomes plus 10 times negative 5 plus 21. Now you can plug that into your calculator, and if I did, I would end up getting 25 plus negative 50 plus 21. My final answer, when I do the math here, I'm going to end up with negative 25 plus 21. It's going to end up giving me negative 4. So that's what I got when I plugged my answer into the equation. So when I did negative b over 2a, it gave me a specific answer, negative 5. Whatever you get when you use negative b over 2a, plug that in to this equation wherever there's an x. Okay, and that will give you the other answer. So I got negative 5 and I got negative 4. That is the vertex of the graph that this equation would create. So when I'm looking at a graph of that equation, it would look like this. And you'll notice the vertex is at negative 5, negative 4. I go left 5, down 4. That's the vertex of the graph of the parabola that this quadratic equation would make. All right, let's look at one more example like this. Okay, so we have a quadratic equation. I'm always going to use negative b over 2 times a. I'm always going to use that formula when I'm trying to find the vertex of a quadratic. Now negative b, the b term here is 12. So when I plug that in, it becomes negative 12, because the negative is in the formula. It's going to always change the sign, over 2 times a. Well, here the a term was positive 2. So 2 times a is just 2 times 2. When I plug this into a calculator, or if I just do the math, negative 12 divided by 4, I'm going to get negative 3. That is the x value of my vertex. In other words, that is the axis of symmetry. This parabola has a axis of symmetry at negative 3 on the x-axis. So I kind of know what the graph's going to look, where it's going to be located, what it's going to kind of look like. Now I'll take that answer that I just got, and I plug it in to the original equation wherever there's an x. So instead of 2x squared, it becomes 2 times negative 3 squared plus, and instead of 12x, it becomes 12 times 3 plus 14. This is how I'm going to find the y value of the vertex, because this is essentially y equals something, and I figure out what that is, exactly what the y value of the vertex is, by plugging this -3 in for x. Okay, so when I plug that in, just put this in your calculator, or if you're on the non-calculator version of a test, just work this out and it will give you the y value of the vertex. So this would be 2 times 9 plus 12 times 3 plus 14. Oops, I forgot to make that negative. Okay, so when I work all of this out, it will give me the y value of the vertex. So when I work this out, oops, I'm going to get -4. If I were to plug this into a calculator, that is what I would get. Now this is the y value of my vertex. I got -3 when I did b over 2a. Plug that answer in and I get -4. That is the y value of my vertex. That is how I find the vertex when I'm given something in standard form. I use b over 2a, get an answer, plug it back in to the original equation, and solve.